All right, so I am going to get going. Good morning. I'm going to assume that when we're doing certain things that, like I'm going to say right now, I'm assuming that you can all see a picture of the pretest on the screen. If I'm wrong, you're going to have to let me know. All right. I sent everyone an email this morning, and I've gotten emails from about 3 or 4 people, and there's 12 in the class, but I got emails from 3 or 4 people saying either they were totally lost or they were having a hard time even getting started. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to do this pretest for you. So I'm going to write it right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do each problem twice. Once as a GUI app and once as a console app. The whole thing will be taped, and when I get done, I will make sure that you all have access to everything that I'm doing right now. All right. So if you have any questions as we're doing this, I just please stop me at any time and ask. That's totally fine. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do here, because I want you to be able to understand this, is, and I'm going to have to change my share, but let's see. I'll do that. Okay. So I'm going to have to come in here and change my share. So stop sharing and then change my share. And I want to show all of you my desktop. So again, my thought is right now, you can all see my desktop. All right. Now, I asked you to go the other day and copy this in this folder that was called AWD hyphen fall 22 hyphen your name. And then you change the your name to your actual name. So again, for me, it would be Jeff Scott, etc. If you have that particular folder available, then I'd like you to open it by double clicking on it, please. And of course, I brought up the wrong folder. So hold on a second. I've got it. I've got 2 different classes, but I brought the wrong folder up. I'll bring it up. Don't worry about it. There it is. Okay, so there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here. It's copying the stuff over right now. But the point is, you've got these folders in here that say database, homework, HOTS, etc. You may or you may not have a folder in there that says .git. If you don't, what you can do to get that folder in there, because you will actually use it later. So what you should do then is in a blank area on your desktop or wherever you save this folder, in a blank area in the folder, right mouse click and choose Git Bash here, which is about 2/3 of the way down. Don't choose Git GUI here, choose Git Bash here. And click on it, and you should get a screen that comes up that looks like this. Yours might have different numbers in it. Your coloring might be different. It really and truly doesn't matter. All right. Now, if you didn't do this the other day, then type in git space init. I'm not going to hit enter right now because I already have that folder, and that's what this does. All right. And if you say, I don't understand anything about this, this is what we're going to be using towards the end of the lecture here. So don't worry about it right now. But if you hit enter and either it shows this .git folder, and even if it doesn't show it, if you get a message that basically Git has been initialized, you're good. If you put that command in from here and you hit enter and you get an error message, I'm going to have to work with you one-on-one. All right. So what I want you to do then next is in here, we're going to make a new folder. So I want you to right mouse click in an empty area here and choose new and folder. All right. So come in here and make a new folder. Let's see. All right, good morning, Chad. We're just starting up. What I asked people to do is I asked you all to open up the folder that we created on the first day, the one that's AWD dash or AWD 1100 dash fall 2022 dash your name that you changed and put your own name in there. So we did that. Then I said, if you didn't have a .git folder in there, to right mouse click in an empty area after the folder's open, right mouse click, choose Git Bash here, and then this window that comes up right here, come in here and type in git space init and hit enter. Now, if you've got hidden files, hidden literally, it may not show this .git here. Otherwise, it'll show it. I'm not going to hit this because it's going to give me an error message saying I've already got this. All right. But if you get a message that says your Git session has been initialized or something along those lines, that's good. That's exactly what it should say. All right. So we did that first. And then I wanted you to come in here, and this is where everybody else is right now too. So I want you to come in and right mouse click in this folder in an empty area, choose new and folder. Now, if you say, well, I don't have those options, I'm assuming that if you've got a typical Windows setup, you do have these options, or at least you know how to create a folder. All right. So I'm going to go and click on folder, and it makes a new folder called new folder. I already had done it once, so now it made new folder too. But I want you to click on that and change the name of that to pretests. We're going to put the pretest stuff that we're about to create in here. All right. So after you type in pretest, just hit enter, and you should now have that folder. All right. Again, if I'm going too fast or if something isn't registering with you, please stop and ask. All right. So I've done all that. That's all I've got to do in here. I'm ready to start up Visual Studio. So I'm going to start that up. And once it starts up, I'm going to come in and again, I'm going to change my share. And then you're going to be seeing Visual Studio for quite a while. So let me start and open up Visual Studio here. I know you probably can't see that, and it's okay. All right. So I'm going to come in, stop the share I was doing, and do a new share here on Visual Studio. So again, right now, I am taking for granted that you can all see my Visual Studio 2022 window right here. All right. Like I said, I'm taking for granted that you can all see that. All right. So the first thing that we want to do in here is we want to come in and we want to create a new project. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on create a new project, click on that particular item. And I'm going to follow the steps that are in the pretest. So the pretest first had you do a GUI problem, then a GUI problem, then a console problem. I'm going to do the GUI problem first. Then I'll come back and redo the same one as a console. So since I want to do a GUI one right now, I'm going to come up here under my create new project, and yours might already have in here Windows Forms app.NET Framework. But if it doesn't, come up into the search bar and type in Windows Forms. And again, remember, you always want to choose the one that says .NET Framework, and you always want to choose the one in here that's got C# on it. So Windows Forms app, and then in parentheses .NET Framework, and the one that says C#. And again, you can either click on it and choose next, or you can double click on it. Either way, it'll get you right here. All right. So the first problem that we create, we're told to call it pretest 01-01. Well, I'm going to call it that, but I'm going to put an A on the end. In fact, let's do this. I'm going to call this pretest 01-01, and I'm going to call this GUI. And then when I remake it in a few minutes, I'm going to remake it with console. All right. Now I've got to change. I don't want this. This is what we did yesterday with that invoice total. So I'm going to click the ellipsis here, and I'm going to go back to my desktop. I'm going to find my AWD 1100 fall 2022 folder with my name. And now I'm going to go to my pretest folder right here. I'm going to click on it, and it says pretest down on the bottom here, and I'm going to choose select folder. The bottom line is this is what I just did. I changed my location. All right. I changed my location to that. Now, then it asks for the solution name. I don't want my solution name to be pretest 0101 GUI. I just want my solution name to be pretests. I'm going to put all the pretests that we do in here. So this is going to be the one for chapters 1 to 3. Then in a couple weeks or a week or whatever, we'll do one for 4 and 5, then one for 6 and 7, etc. So all of them are going to go into this pretests folder. And everything that I create in here, I'm going to make available to each and every one of you in this class. All right, so I've got for project name, I've got pretest 01-01 GUI, GUI, no blank spaces. You're best off in project names, locations, solution names, don't put any blank spaces in there. It may even work if you do it, and then all of a sudden it stops working. All right, so again, my project name is pretest 01-01 GUI. My location is that folder, that AWD1100 fall 2022 your name pretests, and the solution name is pretests. So with that, I'm going to click create. All right, now before we go on, and we're going to right away, all right, notice what I have here. And again, I don't think I can make this any bigger. So I've got a solution that's called pretests. Right now, the only thing in that solution is pretest 01-01 GUI. By the time we finish up today, we will have 6 different projects in here. We will have pretest 01-01 GUI, pretest 01-01 console, pretest 01-02 GUI, etc. So we're going to have all of those in there. All right. Right now, everything is fine, but I want to come in and immediately come in, and my toolbox is not showing. So I'm going to click View, Toolbox, which is about 2/3 of the way down, and it's there. So I just moved it over. Remember, you got this little thing here that acts like a stick pin.
We can't see your
All right, then I'm
program
going to change. Thank you. Then I'm going to change my share right away. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So again, if your toolbox is not showing, go to View, Toolbox, which is about 2/3 of the way down. If it looks like this when you bring it up, then click on it and click on the little stick pin that's right here. All right. So hopefully everybody's screen looks hopefully at least similar to mine. Now, you're not going to see this for just a second, but don't worry about it. What I'm going to do here is I have made a copy of the pretest, and I want to put this in my code. I'm going to put it in as a comment so you can see everything I'm doing. All right. You may or may not know this, but if I'm right here and I want to get to my code window, I could double click on it, but then it's going to open up the form load event. But I can also right mouse click on my form and choose view code. And that's what I'm doing right now. All right, so I right mouse clicked on the form and I chose view code. All right, now I will probably need my system. I probably won't need this stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of it. And then right at the top of my program here, I'm going to put in a slash and a star, like an asterisk, and hit enter again. So I'm going to do this. Why? Because I'm going to paste in all the stuff from the beginning. So write a C#, this, you've got all this. All I'm doing here is I'm literally just copying in the test, for lack of better words. Why am I doing that? Because I want to make sure that as I'm going through this with you, that I don't miss anything. That's my reason for doing it. Do you have to do this? No. Would I recommend you do this? I mean, it's an individual call. I'm going to ask that sooner or later you start adding at least a bit of documentation, and that's what this is. This comment right here is internal documentation. It's internal program documentation. So I want to create this. I want it to prompt the user for 4 test scores. All right. Then I want it to display each test score and the average of all scores. I want to set the accept button, the cancel button, the start position, and the tab order. All right. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, let's start thinking about it like this. We're going to have 4 fields that we're going to input. Test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, and test score 4. Those will go into 4 different text boxes in just a moment. All right. We will also have another one that will be read-only, which will be our average of all of our test scores. In addition, we will have a calculate button, we will have a clear button, and we will have an exit button. That's going to be our interface. All right, so I'm going to build that interface before your eyes right now. And as always, as I'm doing this, if you have questions or something doesn't make sense or the share goes away or whatever, please tell me. I don't want to assume anything. So I'm going back here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to widen this out. I'm going to make this bigger. And I don't know if this is going to have to be bigger or not. I guess we'll see. All right. So the first thing I want to do in here, and the order in which you do this stuff doesn't matter, but I'm doing it in a special order to show you something. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my 3 buttons. So I'm going to come up here in my toolbox, and I've got all Windows Forms open, and there's my button. So if I double click on it, it puts a button up in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to take that button and I'm going to make it bigger. How big? I don't know if this is the right size or not. I don't really care, but I'm just made that. And then, and you've seen me do this before, I'm going to go over to the font. And I like to make this big enough for everybody to see. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. So I'm going to make it Arial. I'm going to make it bold. And I'm going to make it 18 point. Okay, so now I've got my first button. I need 3 of these. So I'm with that button highlighted, I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose copy. Then click off of it, right mouse click and choose paste. And there's my second button. Right mouse click again and choose paste. And there's my third button. So I now have all 3 of my buttons. Okay. I'm not going to worry right now about renaming them or whatever. I just want to build my interface first. So there's that. Now I want to put in my 4 labels. I'm sorry, 5 labels, because I'm going to have test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, test score 4, and my average. All right. So I'm going to bring in a label. There it is. You may or may not remember this, but with labels by default, all right, they all have, they're not sizable. So with the label highlighted like this, I'm going to go over to where it says auto size right here and just double click it. Or you could click it once, click the down arrow and choose it, change it from true to false. I want to make this, about this big and about like that. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change my font. So I'm going to make it Arial. You can make it any font you want. I don't care. Arial to me always reads real well, which is the reason I use it. And I'm going to make that 18. So now I've got that. All right. Now it's kind of hard because the background here is gray and the background here is gray and these are gray. So I'm going to change the background color of my form next by clicking on the form in an empty spot, going to back color, clicking on that square, click on this down arrow that comes up, choosing custom, and let's make it like a turquoise. All right. So now it should look fine. So now I've got one of my labels, and I'm going to do the same thing I just showed you. I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose copy, and then right mouse click and paste. So I've got test score 1, test score 2. I'm going to do it again. And that'll be test score 3. I'm going to do it again. And that'll be test score 4. And I'm going to do it one more time. And that's going to be my average. So again, in just a couple minutes, this is going to say test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, test score 4, and average. This is going to say calculate. This is going to say clear. This is going to say exit. We'll do all that in just a moment. All right. Now I'm going to go over here, excuse me, and I'm going to add my 5 text boxes. So I'll grab a text box. Remember, I can either double click on it, which puts it right there, or I can hold down on the left mouse button and drag it over here and let go. They both do the same thing, so there's no difference. I'm going to widen that out. And again, I'm going to come in here and do the same kind of thing. I'm going to come in and I'm going to change the font type. And that changed the size. So I now have that one done. And I'm going to go through the same song and dance here. Right mouse click, copy, right mouse click, paste. And again, right mouse click, paste, right mouse click, paste, and right mouse click, paste. All right. So now before we go on, my question to you is, does anyone have any questions as to how I just built that interface? Anyone? All right. Now, my interface looks okay. It by no means is it perfect, but it doesn't look bad. So I'm going to click on, I can do it this different ways. I can hold down on my left mouse button and do that to highlight all of them. Or I can just do, click on the form and do a Control A, which highlights everything. I'm about to lock my interface into place. So I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose Lock Controls. Now that interface is locked. All right. The order in which I do what I'm about to do now, which is I'm going to rename all my controls, the order in which you do these doesn't matter. I'm just going to do my buttons first. So I'm going to click on button 1. I'm going to go up to the name, and I'm going to call that BTN Calculate. All in lowercase, except the C in Calculate is in uppercase, and I'm going to run the words together. So I've got BTN Calculate. Then I'm going to go down into where the text is for the button, and I'm going to change that to just calculate and hit enter. So the first one's done. This next one, the text on it is going to be clear, and the name of the button is going to be BTN clear. And the last one, the name of the button will be BTN exit. And as you probably guessed already, the text on there is going to be exit. All right. Now, I'm not going to worry about putting in that underscore. I've already shown you how to do that. I'm just going to leave this the way it is. All right. Now, next, I'm going to come in here. What I'm about to do, you can do it, but of course you wouldn't have to. These labels are what are known as transparent. In other words, the background is the same color as the form. To me, that's a little hard to read. So I'm going to highlight all 5 of my labels. I'm going to go to the back color. Again, you don't have to do this, of course. And I'm going to make it 1 shade darker blue. Now I can really tell where my label starts and ends. Again, you of course don't have to do that. All right. But that's what I just did. So I'm going to come in here and change my names now. So in here, this label, I'm going to change the name of it to LBL Test Score 1. Little LBL, capital T, little EST, capital S, little CORE, and the number 1. All right, so test score 1. Again, no spaces in a name ever. But when you put in the actual text, of course you can have a space. So now it's test space, score space 1, just like that. All right. I'm going to do the exact same thing for these other 4. So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to call this one LBL test score 2. And I'm going to put the text in there as test score 2. Go down to the next one. I don't want to keep just talking, so hopefully you can watch while I do this, if nothing else. And the last one. And that's the last one is going to be called, I'm just going to put AVG test score. Well, it's not, that's too big. Let's see. How about just average score? AVG score. I want to make sure it fits there. And of course, I can't spell, I guess. It's not scroll, it's score. There. All right. And I don't want a T in there. There we go. AVG score. Totally fine. All right. So now notice I've changed the name. LBL test score 1, LBL test score 2, LBL test score 3, LBL test score 4, and I didn't change this one, so I'll change that now. LBL AVG score. All right, so those are all changed. My buttons, BTN calculate, BTN clear, and BTN exit. So the only thing I still have to change in here are the names of these 5 text boxes. So I'll click on the first one. I'm coming up and I'm going to change the name to TXT test score 1. And I don't have to put any text in it. I leave that empty. Come up to the next one and I'm going to change that to TXT test score 2. You get the idea. Now, I think I have changed the name of every one of my test scores, but I'm not sure if I did or not. One way that I can find out, if you're looking on your screen here, is in my properties window. All right, I can come over here where it's white because it'll always show whatever control is currently selected. If I click the down arrow, it shows me all of my controls. And guess what? I forgot to rename one. Shame on me. I forgot to rename my form. It looks like everything else has been renamed. All right, so I'm going to fix that right now. And I'm going to fix that by clicking on the form. You've seen this before. And then I'm going to right mouse click on where it says over here, where it says form1.cs. I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose rename. And we'll call this little FRM. And we'll just call it FRM test scores. That's fine. And it comes back, hey, would you like to rename everything? Yes, we would. So now when I look here, oops. Here. Now when I look there, now everything has been renamed. That's good. All right. Now, looking at what we are supposed to be doing in here. So I'm going back to this. And it says prompt the user for the 4 test scores. We'll do that in a minute. All right. Display each test score. We'll do that in a minute. But let's do this next. Let's set the accept button. Let's set the cancel button. Let's set the start position. Let's set the tab order. So let's do all 4 of those next. You know how to do this if you've been watching in the last couple weeks or a couple days. So I'm going to click on the form and I'm going to go to accept button. which is of course up near the top because this is an alphabetic order. It currently says none, but if I click on it, I get the down arrow and I can choose BTN calculate. So that one is now set. I'm going to go down a little farther and find cancel button. Click on it, click the down arrow and choose BTN clear. So those two things are now done. All right. Next, I'm going to go down almost to the bottom here and I'm going to find start position, which says Windows default location, which is pretty much right where it is. I don't want that. So I want to click on that, click the down arrow and choose center screen. So I have now come in and what I have done what you see there in the color here. That's all done, except I didn't do the tab order. So let's do that next. All right. The average score, this one, that one's going to be a read-only field because I can't set an average. I mean, if I add four numbers together and divide by 4, I can't change the result. All right. I mean, if I'm using a calculator, for example, that's kind of what this is. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go down here and find the read only, and I can either double click on it to change it from true to false, or I can click on it, click the down arrow that comes with it, and change it to from true to false, or false, I should say false to true. So now my interface is done. The only thing I have to set yet is the tab order. Then I can start writing code. All right. So the tab order should be, I want to click here first, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, here, then here. And these don't really matter, but I'll just do them like this. So I'm going to go into click in my first box right here, and I'm going to go and click view, and I'm going to go down almost to the very bottom and choose tab order. And I'm going to change these numbers. So this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, then go to my buttons, 4, 5, 6, then go to my read-only text box, 7, then my labels, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll keep those numbers up there for a second so you can see that. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, then I've got to go back and do another view tab order. All right, now it's a good time to come in here and do a file, save all. All right, and now I can click the green button. The program won't do anything yet, but I can check. So this is good there, and it's in the center of the screen. It looks like my mouse or cursor is in the right position. I can tab around. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so it looks like all of that stuff in the last thing has been set. All right, so what we're going to do before we take a break is the calculate, as you'd probably guess, is going to take the longest to write, this one. All right, so that one will take the longest. So we'll quickly, before our break, we'll write the clear button and we'll write the exit button. All right, I'm going to start with the clear. And again, I always tell people, play computer. Think about what you want to have happen when you click the clear button. I want 6 things to happen. I want this to clear. 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 And I want my cursor to go right back there. All right. And how do I do that? So this is my clear button. Let me move this over so you can see. All right. So if I want, I can put a comment here that says this code will run when the clear button is clicked, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to say txt test score 1.text equals double quote with a semicolon on the end. All right, now to make it a little faster for me, I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to change that to 2, to 3, to 4. And I think this was TXT AVG score or something like that. Looks like it. All right. And then finally, I'm going to say TXT test score 1 dot focus. That's the entire routine. That's everything. All right. So clear every one of my text boxes. There are 5 of them. And then set the focus, which means put the cursor in the first text box. Now I'll come right back to this, but let me do a file, save all, and let me run it. Now I can't put anything in this text box here because it's read only, but I can put some garbage in here and in here and in here and in here. And now I'm going to click so I'm in that read only text box. When I click clear, it cleared everything, and there's my cursor. I can also do it again and check to make sure that my cancel button has been set by hitting now escape. So boom, that's done. So right now I have a program with 3 buttons in it, and one of the buttons is functional. All right. So I want to make now next, I want to put in my exit button code. I gave you that code, but I'm going to put it in here again anyway, but I always forget what it is. So this code will run when the exit button is clicked. All right, and I'm going to put that in just a second, but I want to grab it first. If this comes up and I happen to lose the screen share, let me know and I'll make sure to bring it back again. So give me just a second here. All right. Do you still see the screen? Can somebody tell me? Can you still
Yep,
see my Visual Studio screen here?
Yep, we've got it.
Okay. So this is the code then again for the exit button. It'll bring up a message box with text in it that says, do you really want to exit the program? All right, and the title of that will be exit now. It'll have 2 buttons on it, one that says yes, one that says no. And since I am asking a question, the icon will be question. Later, we'll talk about an information icon, an error icon, and some other ones. Later, sometimes we only want to put an OK button there. So we'll talk about all that stuff as we go on in here. So when that comes up, if you do choose yes, quit the program. So I'm going to leave that there. So if you are typing this in yourselves and you want it, you can have it. All right. Has everybody had the chance to put all this stuff in? Does anybody need to have me leave that up here? All right, then I'm going to come down to here, like I said. I'll give you a couple minutes there. Now, when we do the other 2 programs, I'm not going to spend a lot of time saying again, now I'm changing the name to TXT this. I'm just going to do it. All right, you're still going to see me do it, but I don't feel that the need to sermonize because it's going to be the same kind of thing that I'm doing every time. Again, what you may want to do, and it's totally up to you, but I did email you this. You might just want to take that and make that available to you by putting it someplace into a file or whatever. All right. So I'm going to do another file save all here. And if you're still keying it in, don't worry about it. I'll give you some more time. But now I should be able to click exit. Do you really want to exit? If I click no, nothing happens. And if I click yes, the program ends. All right. We're going to quickly just start, because I'm only going to go for about 3 or 4 more minutes, and then we're going to take our first break. But is there anything I've done thus far that after you listen to the explanation does not make sense to anyone? For those of you who might be watching this on tape, if you're like, yeah, I got a question, then email me with the question. All right. I'm going to try to be on every night, like I said, between 6 and 9 typically, at least 7 and 9. All right, but otherwise 6 and 9. All right, so the only thing that's left is the calculate button. All right, and this code will run when the calculate button is clicked. All right. Well, what I'm going to care about, play computer here. Let's suppose that the person always puts in numbers. So let's say in here I put in a 10, a 20, a 30, and a 40. All right. So what I want to do is I want to have a variable that's going to hold that number, that number, that number, and that number. Then I'm going to need to sum those. So I'm going to need to add those together and divide by 4 and put that there. And if you get that, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to have a variable. So I'm going to make a variable first. I'm going to assume these are whole numbers. All right, so I'm going to say here int test score 1, int test score 2, int test score 3, int test score 4. Now, I'm going to take the average, and it won't be an int, because if your average is a 74.6, I don't want that 0.6 thrown away. So I'm going to put in here decimal AVG score. All right. Plus, I need one more variable. I'm sorry, I forgot. Int total score. All right. So that's going to be everything that we're doing. And I forgot a semicolon there. And that's why it's got the red. You'll notice that all of these are green. They got green squiggly lines underneath them. All right. What that means is they have been declared, but they're not being used yet. So if I put my mouse here, green means warning. It says the variable test score 1 is declared but never used. And if I choose that show potential fixes down here, it'll remove it for me. Well, I don't want it removed. All right. Okay. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you your break 5 minutes later because we can finish this right now. Okay. I'm going to say this. This is equal to convert to int, what is it? Int 32. Oh, wait a minute. Txt score 1 dot text. Doesn't like something I'm doing here. I'm trying to figure out what it is. So let's see. The name convert to int does not exist in this current context. Show potential fixes. Well, I'll look. It's to convert to int 32. Okay. txt test score 1 dot text. I'm going to have to move this over a little bit. How do I do that? Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this, put it there, and put it there, and put it there. All I'm saying is I want you to take whatever value I put into that text box, and I want you to convert it into a number. If I put something non-numeric in there, or if I leave it empty, if I do any of those things, I'm going to get an error and the program's going to break. All right. My total score is going to be test score 1. Sign there. Equals test score 1 plus test score 2 plus test score 3. Now I'm going to run out of room, so I can put this over multiple lines. That's totally fine. Plus test score 4. Okay. I've got 2 more lines and we're done with the program. The average is going to be the total score. All right. And I really want to say that the average score equals the total score divided by 4. The problem with that is that's going to throw away any decimal portion that I have. It's going to throw away. So if my average is a 74.9, it's going to throw away the 0.9. Well, how do I fix that? I'm going to say 0.0 right there. All right. Now it's coming back and it's saying cannot convert type double to decimal. Fine. I put an M on the end. All right. I've got to put in one more line and I'm done. And that is txt average score dot text equals avg score dot toString, and I'm going to put it in here as an I think an N2, but we'll find out. All right. Now you may be copying this down, which is totally fine, and I'm going to come right back to it, but I want to see if I put the right code in first. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in 10, 20, 30, and 40. And before I hit calculate, let's add these. 10 plus 20 is 30, plus 30 is 60, plus 40 is 100. 100 divided by 4 should give me 25.0 there if I did it correctly. And it looks like I did. So I can clear and I can put in 4 more grades. I don't know if that's right or not, but I'm going to assume that it is. All right. So clear, exit, yes. There is the first program right there. And I don't know how I got an extra semicolon there, but I did. So that's everything. I'm going to leave that up there. It is 8:54. I am going to go refill my water and we're going to start up again. We're going to rewrite this as a console application after the break at 9:05. I'll talk to you then. All right, I'm going to start back up again. I was looking at my emails, and I think it was Andrew. Somebody came back and said that it appeared as though part of the video from yesterday's presentation was missing. I wasn't aware of that, but I will take a look at it right after class. All right. What I want you to understand, I'm going to go over each one of these lines of code in just a minute, but in about 2 minutes, we're going to rebuild this as a console app, and I'm literally going to be able to use all this. I'm going to have to change the syntax of some of it, but I'm going to be able to use every bit of that, and it'll probably take about 5 minutes at the most to write that whole program. All right, and you're going to see that in just a moment. So we came in here and I asked, and no one said they had any questions about what's happening in the clear routine. No one said they had any questions about what's happening in the exit routine. So let's jump into this routine. Here we are. If all I put in there was this, if I put int test score and I put a semicolon at the end of it, one of these. So if I didn't put this part of it in there, just this right here is known as declaring a variable. A variable is something whose value can vary while the program runs. So I've got 6 variables in this program. 5 are integer variables. Test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, and test score 4 are all integer. They are holding, so this one that you see in blue right here is holding whatever I put in here. I'm not going to go back and show you all of them, but the next one would hold in the second text box, the next one in the third text box, the next one in the fourth text box. Now remember, whatever I put in here, it's called the text box for a reason. It's text. It doesn't have any numeric value. So what I want to do next is I want to convert each one of those from their value into a number. And what's a little confusing here is this says int, and that says int32. There are different types of integers. An integer is just a whole number. And if you say, well, do we have to know that? No, not for right now. You do not. All right. We will go over in an upcoming chapter the difference between all the different types of data types. So again, this is saying take whatever we put into the first text box, convert it into a number and put it in here. Then the second one and put it in here. Then the third one and put it in here. Then the fourth one and put it in here. Then take these 4 things and should now have 4 numbers in them, add them together and put that into here. Then take that and divide it by 4 and put it into here. Then take that value, the N2 means just with 2 decimal places, and put it into that last text box. Now I've said this to you before, I'm going to say it quickly again, and that is, if I run the program and leave any of these 4 blank, or I put a non-numeric value in any of them, the program blows up right away. So if I just do this, leave this blank and click calculate, I immediately get a runtime error. And it says input string was not in the correct format because it's trying to take blank and convert it into a number, which it can't do. Again, I'll get the same error if I run the program and put in something non-numeric. I'll get the same exact error. It stops right there. It doesn't even go and check these. So it doesn't even go and check these 3 because it found an error there. If I put a number here, but leave off a number there, it'll blow up right there. All right. So let's go back and let's rebuild this program, but let's rebuild it as a console app. I'm going to leave this thing up here right now because, again, I'm going to steal some of the code in just a minute. But I'm going to come up here and I'm going to left mouse click on my solution. Then I'm going to right mouse click on my solution and I'm going to choose Add New Project. So again, click on the solution with the left mouse button 1 time, then right mouse click on the solution 1 time, choose Add New Project. This should look familiar to you by now. this will be a console app. So I'm going to come into my search bar and I'm going to type in console. And again, I want to choose console app space parenthesis .NET framework parenthesis and the one for C#. All right. So with that one chosen, I'll click next and it's going to ask me for a name. The name of my last one was Pretest 01-01 GUI. So I'm going to call this one Pretest 01-01 console. It already knows where it lives and it already has the framework set up. So all I have to do is put in the project name, Pretest 01-01 console, and click create. All right. Now I'm not going to use any of these except system. I'm not going to use any of those, so I'm just getting rid of them. I'm also going to come in, as I did with you before. Again, I told you I have copied the information from the pretest. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paste that in. All right, so it comes in here and it says I want to rewrite the program that calculates the average grade for a student. Okay, and again, these are the same comments that you saw before. And again, I don't have to put in here now, set the cancel button, etc., because there is no button. So that's everything right there. Prompt the user for 4 test scores, display each test score, and the average of all test scores. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my other program and I'm going to grab everything that's in here, everything. And I'm going to copy it, everything from my calculate routine. I'm going to copy it. I wouldn't normally do this. I'd write it from scratch. All right. But I'm taking that. Sorry. Get that out of there. All right. I'm going to take that and I'm going to paste it right into here inside of my static void main. I'm going to get errors. It's totally fine. I'll fix the errors in just a moment. All right. But you notice I really don't get many errors. All right. Declare each test score variable. Well, now this makes no sense because I'm not grabbing it from a text box. What am I going to do? I'm going to do what's called a read line, which means the program's going to stop and ask me to read in. So I got to say here, console.readline. All right. And I'm going to put that into all 4 of these. We're in there. And I need to put in there. Now you'll notice all those errors are gone. All right. And I can still add the things together. I can still divide them by 4, but that's not what I want to show anymore. So I'm going to do some console.writelines. I'm going to say console.writeline test score 1 plus test score 1 dot toString. All right, I'll move that over in just a second. Get that there. All right, so I'm going to copy this down. And that'll be test score 2 and test score 3 and test score 4. And I've got to change these as well to 2, 3, and 4. And finally, I'll want to put in my average. That's the whole program, guys, right there. Now, you may be copying this down. You may not. Again, you will get a copy of this when I get done. But I just want to show you, so I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run this. Now, before I run it, it's going to keep trying to run the old program. So I've got to tell it we want it to run this one. So I've got to go up here where it says console on my project, right mouse click on that and choose set as startup project, which is almost exactly halfway down. All right. And once I do that and run the program, well, you'll notice, boom, it doesn't show anything. All right. Why? Because the goofy instructor forgot to put at the very bottom here. I think it'd be at the bottom and work. We'll find out. Just a read line. All right. Oh, console.read line. I'm sorry. Now, let's see if we can figure out if I've got any errors, because I don't think I do. Test score 1, convert. Okay. Oh, I know what it is. It's waiting for a test. I didn't tell it what I wanted. All right. In other words, it was doing what I told it to do. It's waiting right here for a test. Watch what I do here. If I put in four numbers, 56, 67, 78, 89, it gives me everything. It works. The program works. But what I should have done is I should have said, please enter test score 1. Please enter test score 2. Please enter test score 3. Please enter test score 4. That would have been a little nicer, because this is a little hard probably for most people to understand. So let me come in here and say and do this. I don't want to say right line. I want to say right. Please enter test score number 1 with a space. All right. 2, 3, and 4. So please enter test score number 2, test score number 3, and test score number 4. Also, at the beginning of each of these, I'm going to put a \n, which means it's just going to put a blank line in there. Do you have to be worried about this stuff? No. If you write your first test and you write those programs and they look ugly as hell, but they work, that's much more important than them looking nice and not working. All right. So let's try running it again, and then we'll come back and look at it. So please enter test score 1, 34. Please enter test score 2, 56. Please enter test score 3, 78. Please enter test score 4, 100. So that's 178, 234, 268 it looks like. 268 divided by 4 should be about 67. And there you go. All right, so that's the whole program. So let's break it down and look at everything that's in here. This is asking you to put in the first test score. This is actually putting in the first test score. This is asking to put in the test score. Second test score. This is actually putting in the second test score, etc. So if you do want to write this down, I'll leave this up there for about 5 minutes. After about 2 minutes, I'll move it down a little bit so you can see everything else that's in here. I could make it smaller, but if I make it too small, it gets kind of hard. Most people tell me for them to read it. So I'm going to leave it about that, like that. Make sure you put your code under static void main. Okay, I'll leave that there. It is 9:19. I'll leave that there till like 9:22. Then I'll move it down. So if you want to have the rest of it, you can. hopefully you've at least got a chance to have typed in that stuff that's in blue. So I'll move that down just a little bit so you can see that's everything else. Know that some instructors, when they teach this language, they spend the first month only doing console applications, because when you do just console like this, it's all code and you're not worrying about what the graphical user interface looks like because there isn't one. I've just chosen to do it this way because it dovetails well with what's in our book. Now I'll leave that up there for a couple more minutes, but the logic is the same as the logic in the last program. So the only thing that differs between this as a graphical user interface or GUI program and this as a console program is some of the syntactical things. Previously, we had text boxes and we used .text. Here, we are using write lines and read lines. All right, so there were the write lines and the read lines were up here. But I'm asking the question, does anyone have any questions on the logic in this program or the other program that we did? Anyone? All right, I'll give you just a couple more minutes in case you are keying this in. And when my clock turns to 9:25 in a minute and a half, all right, I'll go on and I'm going to write the next one. I was going to announce this at the end of class, but I'll just say it now. I'm not giving you the test tomorrow. What we're going to do tomorrow, I'm just going to flip around the days a little bit, is we're going to look at the first set of homeworks and labs, and we're going to do one or two of those as a class. All right, so you'll know what you have to do. And then Friday will be a lab day. I will be online the entire time, but there'll be no lecture. It'll be time for you to work on this. If you have a question, we can set up a Teams meeting or we can do it through email. Next Monday, the 29th, will be your first hands-on test for chapters 1, 2, and 3. And again, if you don't have a chance to key all this in, if you've been trying, but you're not that fast a typist or whatever, all right, I am sending this all to you when we get done today. All right. So with that said, it just about is 9:20 there, 9:25. So I'm going to start on the next problem. All right, so I'm going to close both of these. All right, I'm going to come back into here. And I now have in here pretest 01-01 console and pretest 01-01 GUI. So I'm going to click on my solution, left mouse click on it once, whoops, left mouse click on it once, right mouse click on it, and choose add, and again, new project. And again, we're first going to do the Windows Forms app because that's what it said in your pretest. So I want Windows Forms app, .NET Framework, C#. And I will call this one pretest 01-02 GUI. Pretest 01-02 GUI. I don't have to set my location because it already is set in the pretest solution and my framework is set. So I name this pretest 01-02 GUI and I'm going to click create. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in all of those comments so I know what it is I'm supposed to be doing in here. All right. So again, this is program 1.2. This program converts distances from miles to kilometers, and so we'll declare a constant in here that's called kilometers per mile, and that will hold the number of kilometers that are in a mile, which is 1.6. We will prompt the user for a distance in miles. We will display the distance in both kilometers and miles. So for example, 3.0 miles equals 4.8 kilometers, something like that. And then finally, as we did in the last program, we will set the accept button, the cancel button, and our start position and our tab order. All right. Hopefully, by taking a quick look at what's up on the screen here, at least what we're about to do makes sense to you. Okay. We're only going to have one text box where we need to prompt for information. So this will be a smaller GUI than the last one that we had. All right. So let's go in and build that right now. So I'm going to go back into my design mode. I'm going to make sure that my toolbox is showing with a view toolbox. Okay, I'm going to click on it and move it over. There we go. I'm going to stretch out here my properties window. All right, and let's do this. Let's first change the name of the form. So I'm going to left mouse click on my form, name right here in my Solution Explorer. Then I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose rename and call it FRM. We'll just call it converter. Now last time, yes, I want to change it. I didn't change that, so it's still, mine probably still says form 1. Silly of me. I will change on here. I will change the text from form 1 to miles to kilometers converter. You can call it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter, but that's what it says here now. Okay. All right. So that's a start. I'm going to immediately change the background color of my form. Again, because I like doing that. You don't have to ever do that if you don't want to. So it's a lighter red. So what do I want in here? Well, I'm going to want, as always, my 3 buttons. So I'm going to put those in first. And as always, I'm going to set my font and I'm going to set my boldness and my size. So there, and there. So that's done. Then I'm going to, again, right mouse click on the button, choose copy, right mouse click and paste, right mouse click and paste. Oops, didn't hit paste. All right, so again, I'm building my interface here. These will be my 3 buttons, which in a minute will say calculate, clear, and exit. Okay, now I need a label here. Okay, and it's going to say this. So I'm going to put in a label right there. All right, I'm immediately going to go in and change the auto size on there from true to false and make this bigger. Like that. You don't have to do this, but again, I'm going to change the coloring so it's 1 level darker so you can see it and it stands out. I'm going to again change my sizes. Right, so all that's done. And I'm going to add just one more of these. Oops, I don't know what I did there. I don't want that. So let me highlight that button and hit delete. All right. So copy, paste. So there'll be my second one. And now I need 2 text boxes. My first one. And again, as always, I am going to change my font. I have not changed any of the names yet. We'll do that shortly. All right. So I'll put it like that. That looks okay. And again, I'm going to copy it and paste. So there's that. These can probably be a little bit narrower, so that looks a little nicer. That's not too bad. I can move these up if I want. Move those over about like that. That looks pretty good. I can even shorten up my interface a little bit, and that looks pretty decent. Again, if you think that's too close, or too far apart, I can do this. And this is all, this kind of stuff that I'm doing right now, this is all aesthetics. It really and truly doesn't matter very much. But there's my interface. So I'm going to click on here, do a Control-A to highlight all of them, right mouse click, and lock my controls. So now my interface is locked into place. So let's do what we always do, and that is click on the button here. Let's change this to BTN calculate. And let's change the text on it to calculate. The next one will be, the text on it is going to be clear. And the name on it is going to be BTN clear. And the last one will be BTN exit for the name. And for the text, it'll say exit. So those are done. Let's finish these two up. So this first one will say miles. So I'm going to call it LBL miles. And that'll be the name. And the text will just be the word miles with a colon. All right. And the next one will be kilometers with a colon. All right. And it'll be called LBL kilometers. All right. Now this one, let's make it look a little prettier. So I'm going to highlight both of these two things. I'm going to go down to where it says text align, and I'm going to set it to middle right. Looks a little nicer. If you don't agree, it doesn't matter. This is a decent interface. So this was LBL miles, which means this will be TXT miles. All right, with nothing inside of there. This one will be TXT kilometers. All right, I can again click here and make sure I've renamed everything. And it looks like I have, including my form. So everything has been renamed. All right, so let's set our accept button and our cancel button. So I'll click on the form, go up to accept button, and where it says none, I'll click, and in the down arrow, I'll choose BTN calculate. Go down to my cancel button. Again, click the down arrow and choose BTN clear. Those two are now set. Click, go down to the bottom and find my start position. Change it from Windows default location to center screen. All right. And let's immediately set our tab order. The kilometers right there, that is going to be a read-only field. So for my read-only, I'm going to set that to true. So that's now done. All right. But I want the tab order to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But since we're computer people, we start counting at 0. So I want it to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to set that right now. I'm going to go to view and tab order, and that'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All All right, I'll leave that up there for just a second. All right, and then I'm just going to do another view tab order. All right, so that's now all set. I'm going to do a file, save all, and run the program, and it should, whoops, and it's still running the last program. So again, I have to right mouse click where it says Pretest 0102 GUI. I have to right mouse click on the name of that project, and then click on left mouse click, then right mouse click, and choose set as startup project. Now when I run it, there it is. Okay, and that's set. And it looks like everything is set. So from what I had in here, I don't know why I did that, but I did. All right. So from what I had in here from my requirements, I have now just done this. I have set my accept button, my cancel button, and my start position. Okay, I'm supposed to come in and create a constant called kilometers per mile. So I'm going to do that next. So in my code here, I'm going to say const decimal kilometers per mile equals 1.6 m. That's how many there are in, how many kilometers there are in each mile. Okay, so we have to put in our calculate, which is not going to be much code, our clear, which again is not going to be much code, and our exit, and I'm going to use the same code. I'm going to steal it from what we had before. So let me go up to my GUI from over here. This thing that we brought up before, and let me just steal the exit button code right away. Why? Because that'll make it go a little faster here. So I don't need that anymore. I don't need this anymore. And I can now come in here. This is, yeah. All right, so in my exit button, there's that. It's the same exact code that we saw before. No changes, no surprises. All right, so that button is done. When I clear, there's three things I want to have happen. Clear, clear, put the focus right there. That's it. So txt miles dot text equals double quote txt kilometers dot text equals double quote txt miles dot focus. Okay. And I've already got two of my three routines written. Again, you don't have to put this, but this code runs when the clear button is clicked. This code runs when the exit button is clicked. So those are all done. All right, but all we need to do then is this. This code runs when the calculate button is clicked. Again, play computer. I'm going to assume I put a number in there. I want to take that number, multiply it by 1.6, which is our constant, and put it in there. That's all I got to do. So I'm going to have two variables. So I'm going to declare my variables. Yeah, that's right. Declare variables. So I'm going to say decimal miles, and that's going to be equal to whatever I put into that text box. So convert dot to decimal, and no, I don't want BT and calculate in there. I want txt miles dot text. Okay. Then I'm going to have another decimal that I'll just call kilos. Yeah, I could call it kilometers. It wouldn't hurt, but that is just going to be miles times our constant, kilometers per mile. And then finally, I want LBL kilometers dot text to be equal to that kilos, and we'll put it in as N2. And the cool news is, and I'm going to come right back to it, we should be done. So 3, this should say 4.8 here. Whoop, I put it in the wrong thing, but the answer is right. I just put it in the wrong location. So we'll fix that right now. Clear, exit, yes. So let's fix that. This is not there. That's TXT. My error, I'm sorry. So let's run it one more time and just see. So 4.80. Now, you might look at that and say, hey, wait a minute. It says in here that you should, for example, we could have put that into a label and done it like that too. All right, there's a lot of ways that this can be written, but what have we done? We came in and first we set our accept button, our cancel button, our start position, and our tab order. We did that first. Then we declared a constant named km, kilometers per mile, and it held 1.6. All right. As far as prompting, that was what we did in that text box. And then we did our math. So again, I'll leave that up here for a second, but that is the entire program. And what we'll be able to do before we take our next break is we will be able to write the version of this that will be the GUI eyes version, because it's basically just this. All right. So again, I'm going to ask the question. Is there anything in the exit button that does code here that doesn't make sense? Is there anything in the clear button that does not make sense? Is there anything here in the calculate button that we just did that does not make sense? All right, I will leave that up there literally for about a minute or two, but I'm going to see if we can get the console version of this built, because I'm just going to end up copying over this code in just a second. See if we can get that built before we take our next break. Now, again, those of you who might be watching this on tape, if you have any questions, please get a hold of me right away. I don't want to assume anything in here. That's why I keep asking those of you who are here if you've got questions, because all I can do is ask. You know, when I was teaching this in the seated classroom, I would say, does everybody get this? And most people would be like, yeah, whatever. But I would literally say, if you get it, shake your head up and down. I would literally say that. And once I saw all 10, 12, 14, whatever, head shaking up and down, I'd go on. Okay, so let's go in and let's create the next version of this, which will be our console version of this. So let me move that down. There we go. All right, I want to close that, and I want to close that. So right now we've got 3 of these built. All right, I'm going to click again on my solution once, left mouse clicking, right mouse click on it, choose add, new project. This will be, again, a console app. All right, and it will be a console app .NET Framework C#. And the name of this particular app will be Pretest 01-02 console. All right. And I'm going to click create. And there it is. Again, I shouldn't need any of this stuff. All right. And I'm going to, again, I've already copied over, I think, my comments. So this is rewriting it to convert from miles to kilometers. It'll declare that constant, kilometers per mile, which holds the number of kilometers in a mile, which again is, 1.6. It'll prompt the user for their distance in miles. And it'll display the distance both in miles and in kilometers. And finally, we are doing this as a console program. Okay. So that's everything. Now I'm going to jump back into my converter that we just had. And again, I'm going to steal all of this code that's in here. In fact, I'm going to steal this too, the constant that we created. I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to get errors when I do this. It's totally fine. But I'm going to go down and in main here, I'm going to put that in. Again, there's errors in here. Now, don't worry about that at all. All right. Let's start clearing out these errors. So I want my constant. Normally, you declare constants at the top of the program. So they may have to be used in a bunch of different places. So there's my constant. All right. There's my decimal. So there's my declaring my variables. All right. But now I don't want to do it like this. I want to come in here and say console.writeLine, enter miles. All right. And then miles is going to be equal to convert.toDecimal, but it's going to be a read line. Okay. Oh, I need console.readLine. Here we go. All right. And then my kilometers will be miles times the kilometers per mile. That's good. So now I should be able to come down here and do my write line. In fact, we'll say, let's see, miles dot toString, and we'll make it N2. And that is going to be equal to, and I don't want it to run off the page, so I'll just put it on 2 lines. I need the word console here. Okay. Kilos dot toString N2. All right, so let's see. I'm missing a parenthesis there. And finally, at the bottom here, don't think I need that, but I need to write a read line. Oops. So console.readLine, just so it doesn't appear or disappear off the screen. Now I don't need this. And I did need that. There we go. Should be done. Let's just try it. So I'm going to do a file save all, and I'm going to run it. I want to make sure it's the active program, so I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose set as startup project, and now run it. Enter miles. Now that should have been a right, not a right line. It should stay on the same line. 3.00 equals 4.80. It's correct, but I've got to change this from a right line to a right, so it looks a little nicer. And this should say miles equals that kilometers. And it should be done. So let's try running it again. Enter miles, 3.0 miles equals 4.80 kilometers. That's it. So if you do want to type this in, I'll leave this up there. It is 9:50. Let's take a break, and let's give you a couple more minutes. So at 2 minutes after 10, I'm going to come back and write the last one, both as a console app and as a GUI app. So I need to get a refill on my water, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes, and we'll start up at 10:02. All right, it is 10:02. Does anyone have any questions on this particular program? Anybody with anything? All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm going to create the last program. And on that one, it said we did the GUI first. So again, I'm going to left mouse click on my solution, right mouse click on the solution and choose add new project. This will again be a Windows Forms. Oh, I guess we did. I'm sorry. This was the console first. So let's type in console. We want console app.NET framework. All right. C#. So I'm going to double click on that and I will call this Pretest 01-03 console. So again, Pretest 0103 console and click create. And now I've got that one there. I'm immediately going to right mouse click on it and set that as my startup project. All right. And again, I don't think I need any of this stuff. So let me get, this has got quite a few comments in it. I realize that. Whoops. So let me get that stuff set up. All right, this will take a second to clean up. So write a console program that lets the user enter a number grade, and then it displays the associated letter grade. Include constants min grade with a value of 0 and max grade with a value of 100. The associated letter grade code we use is shown here. And what that means is 90 and above is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D, and below 60 is an F. That, may make total sense to you and it may make very little sense to you. I gave you all this code and you might say, yeah, you gave us all, I don't get any of it. You don't have to. There's nothing like this on your first test. I just wanted to show you this is the kind of code we're going to be writing as we go on in here. That's what I wanted to show you. All right. So if it makes no sense, don't worry about it. I am going to explain it in just a couple minutes. All right, but I'm going to clean this up a little bit first. So this is going to say right here that if we put in a value that's less than 0, or if we put in a value, that's greater than 100, try that again, that it's going to give us a message that's just going to say invalid number grade. Otherwise, if the grade that we put in is between 90 and 100, all right, like that, they get an A. All right. If it's over 80, I'm not going to I'll fix this later before I send it out to you. All right. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to set up a couple constants to begin with. So let's set those up. So I'll put a comment here that says program constants. And I think we are supposed to call them min grade and max grade. Yep. So constant int min grade equals 0. That's the lowest grade that you can get. Const int max grade equals 100. That's the highest grade you can get. All right. So the only thing we have to do is ask them for a grade. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say console.writeLine, enter grade. And just so they know, it should be between 0 and 100. So I'm letting them know that. All right. Then I'm going to stuff that into a variable that I'm going to call grade. So int grade equal convert to this console.readline. Again, the program will blow up. The program will blow up if I put a value in there. If I put a value in there that's non-numeric or I leave it blank, the program will blow up. Now I am going to go back and all that code that I gave you, the stuff, all that big if statement, I'm going to just copy all that. And I'm going to paste it right in here. Okay, now again, don't worry about this. This is fine. Okay, I guess I called it number grade. Here I called it grade. That's fine. So grade. Grade. Oh, I'll need a letter grade, but that's okay. We'll fix that too. Just a second. Grade. 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 We will literally be done with this in about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to create another variable up here that's called letter grade. And it'll be a string variable, which means it'll hold A, B, C, D, etc. So letter grade, and I don't want it to have any value when the program starts. So I'm going to set it equal to the empty string. So there's letter grade, letter grade. All my errors are gone. Good. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say console.writeLine. And I'm going to say number grade was plus grade dot toString plus, and then I'll put in here letter grade was. And that already is a string, so I can just say letter grade. And believe it or not, we're done. Now I'm going to run it. And I'm going to run it a couple times here, and I'll go back and I'll explain everything that's in here. All right. Okay. So let me do a file save all. Oh, and it's, guess what? I need a read line in there because otherwise it's going to blow right off the screen. So console.readline I need on the end. So let me run it. Enter a grade. Again, that should not have been right there. A right line. It should have just said right. So I stay on the same line. So, all right, enter grade. Let's leave it empty. It blows up like I told you it would. Okay. All right. Again, we're going to learn to fix that very shortly. I'm going to put in a number that's out of range, -62. And it says number grade was -62, letter grade was invalid number grade. Okay, that works. I should put in here a \n so it reads a little nicer. And we'll put one here too. All right, let's run it again. And let's check all of them. So if you got a 93, it should say you got an A. And it worked. Okay. Let's try 83 and see if you get a B. And you do. Let's try 73 and see if you get a C. You do. Let's try 63 and see if you get a D. You do. And let's try 53 and see if you get an F. So it all works. So let's just take a couple minutes and go over the entire program and see what we have here. We created two constants, one called min grade, which was lowest possible grade. All right, then we created another one, and this is the highest possible grade. All right. So we want to enter a value that's between 0 and 100. So we tell you to enter a grade, and we tell you that it should be between 0 and 100. Then we ask you to read it in. We convert it to a number. You already saw if we put something non-numeric in there or leave it blank, it breaks. And we assign that to grade. So this is the number grade. This will be the letter grade that goes along with it. If that grade was out of range, meaning it was either greater than 100 or, and that's what this means is or, the grade was less than 0, we set the letter grade just equal to invalid number grade because you put in something that was out of range. If we get down to right here, if we make it to this point, they had to have entered a number between 0 and 100. Because if they put in a number that was out of range, it would have done this. As soon as it meets one of these conditions that it finds, it skips all the rest. So if we put in -10, yeah, that is less than 0. It does this, and it skips that else if, and that one, and that one, and that one. Skips all of them. All right. But let's say we put in a 93 like we looked at. Well, is 93 greater than 100? No. Is 93 less than 0? No. So we come to here. Is 93 greater than or equal to 90? It is. So we set the letter grade and we skip all of those else's. We run it again within 83. It's within range. It's not greater than or equal to 90, but it is greater than or equal to 80. So if we get down to here, that line that you see in blue right now in line 67, if we get down to that line, we have to have a test score in there that's between 0 and 80. Because between 0 and 89. If we put in a number greater than 89, 90 or above, we would have caught it here. In the same way, if we are in here, if we get down to this point, we know the number that they entered was between 0 and 79. If they get down to here, it's got to be between 0 and 69. And if we get to here, it's got to be between 0 and 59. And all we're doing is we're assigning letter grades based on a scale of 90 to 100 equals an A. In fact, I'm going to get rid of all this comment. I gave it to you so you have the code. But I'm going to say in here, shown below. So 90 to 100 equals A. 80 to 89 equals B. 70 to 79 equals C. 60 to 69 equals D. 0 to 59 equals F. And greater than, how about this? Less than 0 or greater than 100, then it's equal to invalid, basically. So that's our range. Now, the reason that I put this here is once we get into the next set of chapters, I believe it's chapter 5, which we may get into next week, I don't know. But this is the kind of thing we're going to write. In all the programs you've seen up until this point, they were sequential in nature. You did this, then you did this, then you did this, then you did this, and eventually you were done. Well, that's not typically how things work when you write code. All right. We did this, and you do that every time, but what happens next as far as assigning the letter grade depends on what we did up here. All right, you can kind of look at it is what do we have here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's kind of like we're entering, maybe we're on a big expressway and we can go in 6 different directions. All right. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you have to just pick one. And that's kind of what we're doing here. All right. So again, your first test, your first set of homeworks, your first set of labs will have nothing like this. I solely put this in there so you can see the kind of thing that we will be doing. All right. So went over all that. I'll leave this up there for just a second in case anybody wants to copy it down. And I will, it's 10:17, at 10:19, I'll move it down a little bit. Then we will write it as a GUI app, and that'll be it as far as the code we write today. But then we'll talk about what we want to do next. So let me move this down a bit. One thing you probably have noticed that was really evident with this program is it would be nice to be able to run this, have it be done, and then run it again without having it stop and having to start it again. We're going to get into that in the next, not in the next lesson, but in a week or two. All right. I haven't heard questions from anyone. So what I am going to do is kind of what we did before, and that is I'm going to grab every bit of this here, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. All right. And I'm going to come in and create my last program of this set. So again, I'm going to left mouse click and click once on my solution. Right mouse click on the solution, choose add new project. And I do want this one to be my Windows Forms. And I want to make sure again, the .NET framework in C#. And I want this one to be called Pretest 01-03 GUI. All right, and I'm immediately going to go and tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to view my code, and I'm going to grab all that stuff that I just copied, and I'm going to put it in here, but I'm going to put it in as a comment so I can pull it out as I need it. There, that's all that code. All right, so again, I don't need any of this. I could have put it in, but it's not helping or hurting at all, so. I like the comment I wrote for the last one for the for this over here. So I'm going to change my comments so it looks like this one. All right. But this is B. And this is a C# GUI program. All right. And it lets you display the number grade. It's got all that good stuff in it, so I don't need that. All right. So I'm just going to, let's build the interface first. All right. So the other thing is what we have to add in here, as we had done previously several times, and that is we have to display, not the distance, but we have to display the number grade and the letter grade. And I'm trying to find what I'm looking for there. Where is it? There it is. Finally, we want to make sure, because we've been doing this all along, we want to set the accept button, the cancel button, the start position, and the tab order accordingly. All right. And again, we are writing this thing here as, no, not a console program, but as a GUI program. All right. So let's write the interface, which should be fairly simple. Okay. I can probably shorten this up, and I will in a second. But let's come in and let's first add our label. That'll be the letter grade. I'm sorry, the number grade. We'll do that. And put in the text box. All right. And then let's add our 3 buttons. Now, you may or may not, nobody's asked me this question yet, but you may or may not be wondering, it's like, why don't you just set everything at one time? I've tried doing that in the past, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. What do I mean? I'm going to grab all of these controls and I'm going to go over to the font property. And for all of them, I'm going to set the font type. I'm going to set the font style, and I'm going to set the font size. All right, that actually should work. Okay, again, I will have my 3 buttons. I can move these over. I'm going to really try to shrink this down and have a nice compact looking little interface here. All right, so that's my entire interface. And again, this will be the number grade. That will be the letter grade. This will be calculate, clear, and exit in just a moment. I'm going to move these over, and I'm going to make these bigger. All right, and remember to do that, I have to go to the auto size and set that from true to false. All right, So I will put it like about like there. What that did, but eight. That looks pretty good. I think my interface is done. So I'm going to do a Control A to highlight everything. I'm going to lock it into place. So that's all done now. I'm going to, as I always do, I'm going to change the back color of my form. I'll make this one a green. Try to. Oops, I was the wrong thing was highlighted. So try that again. Okay, so that's all done. And let's finish everything else. So this one will be, the label will be named LBL number grade, and the text on it will be number grade. What I did here, I've got the wrong thing again highlighted, so let me change that. That will be, like I said, LBL number grade, and the text will be number grade. Still didn't make it wide enough, so I'll have to fix that. This will be LBL letter grade. And it will say letter grade. All right. I'm going to move these over just a little bit. I have to unlock them first. Then I'm going to grab these two and I'm going to make them bigger. There we go. And again, lock my interface. All right, so I now have LBL number grade, LBL letter grade. This will become TXT number grade. This will be TXT letter grade. And so those are done. This will be my BTN calculate. And it will say calculate. This will be my BTN clear, and it will say clear. Oops. It says clear. Okay, good. Clear. And finally, this will be BTN exit. And it will say exit. And one thing I forgot to go and add was to click on the form. And whoops, let's click on the form again right there. And let's right mouse click on form1.cs, do a rename, and we'll call this FRM grades. Yes, I want to change everything. And I also want to make sure I change the text from form 1 to number grade to letter grade converter, something like that. And there that is. Okay. So let's, as we always do, let's click on the form here. Let's set our accept button. And we will set that to calculate. Let's set our cancel button, I should say, to clear. Let's set our start position to center screen. All right, those are all done. Let's set the letter grade is going to be a read-only field. Okay, so we will set our tab order to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do that right now. So view tab order. Again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And view tab order. Let's do a file save all and run it and just see what it looks like. Should be in the middle. Oops, I didn't set my startup project. So right mouse click on here, choose set as startup project, and then run it again. There it is. So I can put stuff in there. None of the buttons work yet. That's fine. Okay. So let's make the buttons work. There's our calculate button, which we will do first. No, we'll do that last. There's our clear button. And there's our exit button. Okay. So just like I did previously, I'm going to go back, and for the converter program, I'm going to grab the code for the exit button, copy it to the clipboard, paste that in. All right, do a file, save all, and let's see if that works. All right, so that's done. Next, let's do the clear button, because that's 3 lines of code. Clear this, put the focus here. So txt number grade dot text equals double quote txt letter grade dot text equals double quote and txt number grade dot focus. All right, and you've seen me do this before. This code executes when the clear button is clicked. This over a bit. This code executes when the exit button is clicked. And finally, this code executes when the calculate button is clicked. All right. Again, I grabbed all that code from down here. So let's look at what we need. Well, we need these constants. And I only copied one of them, but that's okay. So let's put in those constants first of all. So I'll put in a comment that says program constants. I'll put it in here twice, and then change this one to min grade. And that will end up being 0. And that's the lowest possible grade. Okay, so that's done. So I don't need any of this. Okay, I'm going to grab all of this code that's in here. It's going to give me some errors, but I'll fix them right away. All right, so int grade equals convert, and what we're converting now is not a read line or a write line, but I want to convert txt number grade dot text. All right, and if the grade is out of range, we'll set it there. Otherwise, this, all that's okay. We don't put a console.write line in here anymore. All right, we've already got the number grade, so we don't have to put that in there. So we can just say txt letter grade dot text equals the letter grade. That should be everything. I may have missed something, but we'll see. So file, save all. Now, if we run this and if I put in nothing, it is going to say in here, well, it's not going to put anything. It's going to give me that garbage. But if I run it and put in a value, a number that's out of range, like it is saying in here invalid, but I didn't make that wide enough. You can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that from invalid number grade to just the word invalid. Hopefully that'll all fit in there. So if I run it, put in, now it just says invalid. So that worked. All right, just like we did before. So let's do a 100. That's an A. A 90 should still be an A. An 89 should be a B. A 79 should be a C. A 69 should be a D. A 59 should be an F. So it looks at least like it's working. So let's go through this code, and then, like I said, then that's pretty much it. All right. Again, we've got our program constants. So this is our range. The range of allowable grades are 0 through 100. 0 meaning either you didn't take the test or you took it and got absolutely nothing right. 100 meaning you did take it and you got everything right. All right. So this was the same routine we've had for our exit button on all 3 of the GUI programs we did today. They're all the same. This is pretty much the same, but I have to look at the interface and I have to say, okay, with this interface, what do I want to clear out and where do I want to put the focus? And then finally, and this was a little bit different this time. All right. We took what was in the first text box and converted it to a number. You saw if it was non-numeric, it broke. This is the letter grade we're going to set based on what their number grade was. If it's out of range, all right, we just said the word invalid in that little box. Otherwise, if we get down to here, it has to be a number between 0 and 100. If the number we put in is 90, 91, 92, all the way through 100, they get an A. If it's between 80 and 89, they get a B. If it's between 70 and 79, they get a C. If it's between 60 and 69, they get a D. And if it's between 0 and 59, they get an F. Then we just set that text box contents accordingly. We don't have to say toString because it's already a string. All right. Are there any questions on that? Are there any questions on any of the 3 programs that we went over, be it on the console side or on the GUI side? All right. Then what I'm going to do, we're not done yet. I'm going to do 2 things. And I want you, not right now, but eventually I'm going to want you to follow me in what I'm doing. Okay. Now, probably, I was going to say we lost our share. So I'm going to come back here again and let me go to my desktop. So I'm going to give you a new share here and it'll be my desktop. All right. Hopefully you can all see my desktop here. Now, this pretest thing that we just did, it's not big. It's under a meg. It's 934K. So just in case, because we're going to try to work on this with Git and GitHub, but just in case we have any kind of problem, I'm going to take this pretest folder that's got all 6 of the programs in it. I am copying it to my desktop. I am zipping it. And I'm going to email you that zipped folder in just a few moments. All right. But what I'd like all of you to do right now, you can follow me, and I'd like you to do exactly what I'm doing here. All right. So to get this project ready, all right. And if you say, I don't know what that means, you will hopefully in a couple minutes. But to get everything ready, I want you to, again, click in an empty area on your desktop folder, wherever you saved your AWD1100- fall 2022- with your name in it. In that folder, I want you to open it, and I want you to right mouse click, if you don't have it open already, in the empty spot and choose Git Bash here. Now you're going to learn a few Git commands. All right. So we're going to have to do a few things here. I'll make this bigger so everybody can see it. I'm assuming you already did the Git init, so you've got the .git folder there. All right, I'm making that assumption. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we're getting this ready. I do want to say something to you right now that you might understand and that you might not understand. All right, Git that we are in right now, what you see on my screen, that's called a software versioning system. All right. If you say, I don't know what that means, you don't have to. But if I'm going to make different versions of my code, I can make a version, save it, make some more changes, save it again, make some more changes, save it again. You might say, well, big deal. Yeah, but when I save it like that to Git, at any time, if I make a mistake, I can revert back to an earlier version. All right. Plus, version control systems are good if you're sharing code between people. Now, what we're going to do in just a couple minutes is we're going to go to our GitHub account, and we are going to do what's called push. And when we push it, we're going to take all this stuff and we're going to add it to our own GitHub repository, and it's not difficult. So what I'd like you to do first, and we do want to do it in this order, is first of all, we have to let the system know that we want to take the stuff that's in here, we're going to want to put it into our GitHub repository. So we have to do what's called stage the stuff that we've got. The easiest way to stage it is to type in git space add space dot. That means take everything that's in here, everything, not just the pretest, everything, and add it. All right. So type in git space add space dot. Now, when I do this, it may give me a bunch of stuff here. It may just give me my prompt back. Right? If you get something like I've got here, warning.
We're not seeing your gits.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Eventually, I'll probably remember it. Let's see. Let me share. Thank you. All right. Now, can you?
Yes.
Okay. So once you get there and you right mouse click in that area and you choose git bash here, it'll look something like this. Type in git space add space dot. That'll add everything to get it ready. If you get these messages, and you may or you may not. LF means line feed. CRLF means carriage return line feed. It's just the way that some of this stuff is stored between the different software packages. So please don't let it bother you. It's totally fine. So the first thing we typed in was git space add space dot. Now, all that stuff has been staged. In other words, it's all ready to be added. How do I know that? Well, you don't have to type this, but if you type in git space status, it shows you all the different stuff that we have in here. All right. And you don't have to do that, but I just wanted you to see that. So that's the stuff that it says it's getting ready to work with. All right. So we did our stuff. All right. We put it in the staging area. Now we have to do what's called commit it. So to commit it, you say git space commit space -m, because whenever you do a new commit, you should put in a message, and that's what the M in there is for. Then in double quotes, something like initial commit. In fact, let's not even put in there. We'll say commit with first pretest problems. You should always put a descriptive message in here, always. All right. So after you put in that, hit enter. And again, it's showing the stuff that it's going to be moving over. But what I put in here, just so you see it, if I did it too fast, is I put in that. I'm not going to do it again, but that's what I put in. You can put anything you want in here, within reason, of course, but it should be a message that reflects what we're about to do. That's why I put in the message that I put in. Now, believe it or not, we're ready to push it out to GitHub, but you guys don't have a GitHub repository out there yet. So we're going to do that right now. So what I'd like you to do, and I'm going to have to change my share. I get it. All right. I would like all of you to please in the browser, whatever you're using for your browser. So where am I? I'm right here. All right. So I'm at my browser window. Hopefully you can all see my browser now. I'm going to open up a new window and I'm going to go out to my github.com. Now, when you go out there, yours probably won't look exactly like mine, and it may prompt you for a password. It may or it may not. I occasionally get prompted for a password. Normally I don't. I asked you yesterday when you set that up. All right, I asked you to write down the password or put it in a place or copy it and put it into a file. So I'm hoping you remember it. One thing that you know, if you forget your password, you can contact GitHub and have them basically set it up so you get another one. That said, there are literally millions of people doing billions of things with GitHub. You aren't going to get an answer like that. All right, if you forget your password, typically you'll get it that day. All right, but you may or you may not. All right, now what I'd like all of you to do, and please, anybody who's listening right now live, if you don't have it, let me know. Do you all have a green button here that says new? Can anybody answer that for me?
Yes.
Okay, click that button. And it's going to ask you to create a new repository. All right, yours may look just like this. It may look a little bit different. Either way, it's okay. All right. Now, in here, if it does say repository template, don't worry about that. Just leave it as no template if you've got that. If you don't have it, it's okay. If you have a thing that says owner, yours might be filled in already with you, and it may not be. But if it does say select owner like mine does, click the down arrow and choose you. If you've got me in there too, don't choose me, choose you. So if your name was John Smith and yours was, you saved it as like J. Smith Rankin, that's what yours would say. Does that make sense to everybody? If it doesn't, please say something. All right. Now, unfortunately, now you're not going to, don't worry, you're not going to lose anything, okay? But I forgot to tell you to do this first. We need to know the name of that folder we were just using. That's mine right there. Okay. So in other words, let's see. Mine was AWD 1100 fall 2022 your name. All right. I don't have one that says Jeff Scott, so I'll put in here Jeff Scott. Yours should have the same name. AWD 1100 fall 2022 your name. If you did what I told you to do yesterday. All right. Notice it's available, so it gives me a message and it gives me a green checkbox. Before I did that, when I used my old name, it was pink in here and it told me that name is already taken. All right. So if you've already got, we're creating what's called a repository right now. Okay. And with that repository, each repository that you create has to have a unique name. Okay. You can go in and I'll show you that at another time and remove repositories if you don't need them anymore, etc. But that's, like, again, I said, that's a discussion for another day. You don't have to give a description. Yours will be private. I make mine public. Please make yours private. That means only you can see it, but I'm going to show you after the break how you can send me an invitation to see it, and you'll have to do that. So you choose private for yours. Please choose private now. You can skip the rest, go all the way down to the bottom, and find the button that says Create Repository. Click that button. And if it worked, you're going to get this, and it'll have your name / AWD fall 2022 your name. If you've got that, fantastic. It worked. Now there's 2 or 3 more things we got to do, and then we're taking our next break. Sorry, I'm running a little late because I tried to give you your breaks at 10 to. All right. But again, this is going to take just a couple minutes to do. If you arrow down in here, we've already done this. You already did the get init. You don't need a README file. You've already done the commit. So you've already done these first 3 things that you see in here. You've done those already. You only do the get branch. You only do that if you're sharing it with other people. Okay? So what I'd like you to do is grab this line of code on yours. It won't look the same as mine, but I'd like you to grab that whole line that you see right there, highlight it all so it's in blue, and then right mouse click and choose copy. Then right mouse click and choose copy. And again, if I'm going too fast, please stop me. All right, now I have to change, again, I have to change my share. And now I want you to please go back to your GitHub window right here. And you can't paste it in directly. You've got to right mouse click and choose paste. All right, like that. Don't worry that if it's gray like that, it's not going to hurt anything. There you go. Okay, you need to put in that line of code first and then hit enter. All right, and it came back and it said remote origin already exists. Yours should not say that. I already have one with that name. So yours should not say that. All right. If you, after you've done that, if you want to make sure it worked, you can say get, let me type it in first. You can type in get remote -v, and that should have the path to your repository that you just created. All right, let me clear this. One more command, and then we're basically done with this part. We're going to take our next break. Now, don't type in this. You want to say git push minus u origin. Now, yours is going to be different. Okay? You are going to now type in the word main here. Up until a few years ago, GitHub was not politically correct. So when I created my GitHub account, instead of putting main in here, like they show, I have to put in master. But somebody said that was breaking the rules of political correctness by using the word master because it basically implied master slave or something. So you will type in main. So git space push space -u space origin space main. That is expecting that you are at the root level, not in your pretest folder, but you are at the root level of what you just created. Now, if I hit enter, I get an error because I put main in there instead of master. But if I change mine to master and hit enter, in fact, let me clear it first so you can see all the stuff that's going to happen. It's going to whiz and spin and do a few things. Of course, now it's asking me to key in. Oh, great. Sign in with your browser. Hopefully it'll take that. There. Okay, that's all it took. And you might say, well, nothing happened. No, the magic has already happened. So I have to change my screen share one more time. All right. And I've got to go back in my screen share into GitHub. And it looks like this, but if I refresh my screen by clicking this thing in the upper left-hand corner, All right. Yours will change. Mine didn't change for some reason, but yours should change. Now you have committed your stuff to your GitHub repository. All right. Now, if it didn't work, it's okay. But if it didn't work, I'm going to have to work with you one-on-one to fix it. All right. We're going to take a break right now. It's 10:57. We're going to break till 11:10. And at that time, I'm going to show you how you can invite me in to look at your repository. Okay, so give me just a second here. Let's come back at 11:10, please. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
So I've got a quick question about
Sure.
GitHub before we get started back up.
All right.
So I did I actually had to do the origin master language
Oh, okay.
instead of main, and then it asked me to authorize Git credential manager. Have you heard of that?
No.
Like it
And
after
I can just,
GitHub pulled up. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to hurt anything, but I will
Yeah.
just tell you, that again, for good, bad, or indifferent, they change this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what they did. So, I
Okay.
mean, like I said, it's, that doesn't help you much. I understand that, but no, I've never had to do anything like that.
Okay. It looks like everything went through on the Git code side of things. So
Yeah, and what's going to happen in just a couple minutes is I'm going to be able to know whether or not it did.
okay.
All right. So let's see. All right, it is 11:10, so I'm going to start back up. Hopefully you can see my screen and you can see I'm going in a circle right now. I just emailed you two things. First, I took the entire pretest folder. All right, I took the entire pretest folder and I zipped it and sent it to you, so you have that. Okay. Now, you should already, what I tried to do before too was I tried to go and push my stuff and it failed. And the reason that it failed is that when I set my GitHub path up initially, all right, I set it up to AWD1100 fall 2022 your name. That's where it's trying to save it to, but I told it to save it to, instead of your name on the end, I told it to save it to Jeff Scott. That was why it failed. Yours hopefully succeeded. Now, I was told, I don't know if you heard that right beforehand, you may have been asked for some authorization or something else. Over time, and actually this is a good thing because GitHub is striving to try to be as secure as possible. I mean, literally, I don't think I'm exaggerating here. There are probably a billion different things out on GitHub, and probably more than that. All right. If you told me several billion, I'd believe you. All right. So I also sent you this right here. And if I click on that, so you can click on it yourselves or you can look at it later or whatever. But this is from GitHub's own documentation. And it says inviting collaborators to a personal repository. What I want you to do, not this second, but is to read through this, follow these instructions, and see if you can send an invite to me for your repository. That on there, it'll ask you, who do you want to include? You should be able to put J.P. Scott Rankin. And then I should be able to look at your stuff. Why am I telling you that? Because in just a second, we're going to take a quick look at the other stuff that's in that folder. And Monday, you will be expected to create your hands-on test inside of that HOTS folder that's in the same folder structure that we just looked at. And then when you get done, you're going to have to do another git add dot, and then another git commit, and then another git push. And then I'll be able to see everything. All right. What I have always done and what I plan on doing this semester is, again, that test will be out there on Monday. You will all have it by 8 a.m. That said, let's imagine we've got the infamous person X, and person X works every day from 7 o'clock until 3 o'clock and gets home at 3:30. Well, person X then can look at their email can take their test and they still have 8.5 hours to get it in. But my hope and prayer is that by the end of the day, I will have 12 GitHub repositories that I can look at, and you will each have done the test. If that's the case, then the next day, I'm going to do the test right in front of you so you can see how I did it. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that if the last person turns theirs in at midnight, that I'm going to have all of them graded by the next morning, but I should have them graded within 2 days. So if you take it Monday, you should have your test back by Wednesday. All right. So look through that. But what I want to do though, next, and I'm going to have to, again, sorry, I'm going to have to change my share. Let's see. I'm trying to see here. I'll grab that one. Let me close this. Got to close a couple things here. So there we go. All right. So I'm changing my share on you again. All right. And what I'm going to open right now is this. I'm going to go back to the desktop. And again, you on your desktop or someplace else have your AWD Fall 2022, etc. All that good stuff. All right. And in there, you now have your pretest folder. All right. You may or may not have done the pretest with me. I don't know. Either way, it's okay. You don't ever have to turn a pretest in. I will not look at it if you did a pretest unless you try doing it, you ran into an error, then you can always just move it up there and have me look at it. That's fine. But what I want to do is this is what we're going to look at tomorrow. I'm not moving ahead, but in here, you've got a folder called labs and you've got a folder called homework. Let's take a look first at the folder called labs. All right, and you'll notice in this folder called labs, there is a document that's called ch2_3 labs_new.docx. I'm going to open that, and guess what? You can't see it until I do another stop sharing and start sharing on that again. So I'm going to do that. So hopefully you can now see it's a Word document. All right. And if you don't have Word, you should be able to at least download the Google Drive equivalent of Word and open it with that. Now, these are old. So where it says this, terms to review, etc., don't worry about that stuff. All right. And complete naming conventions, don't worry about any of this stuff that's in here. You won't ever have to do that. Guess what? You've already done the first program. Write a console program that converts distances from miles to kilometers. We've already done that one. Right, so let's go on. Next, write a console program that calculates projected raises. I want you to try this one. You might have a problem with it, but I want you to try it anyway. All right. The next one, look familiar? Write a console program that calculates the average grade for a student, prompt for forward grades, and display the average. You've done that one. The last one that's in here, all right, works with Pig Latin, forget it. So from here, the only one you're going to have to do on your own is number 5. That said, I still want you to do this one we did as a class, the miles to kilometers. I still want you to do the one we did in class with the grades. I want you to do those, not as part of that pretest, but I want you to do those as your homework. All right, but you don't have to do number 7. All right, so the only one you're going to be doing from scratch, and it might make you think a little bit, that's not a bad thing, is this one. All right, now I'm going to recommend that when you go in and you start creating your own projects under your homework directory, that, for example, you call this one something like chapter 2, number 4. Don't worry about GUI or console, but something like that. All one word run together. Or CH2 num 4 or something like that. CH2 num 5. CH2 num 6. If you do that, it will make it much, much, much easier for me when I'm grading. Because I've had people call them all sorts of things over the years. And pardon my French, but it's a pain in the ass to sit there and dig through your stuff and figure out what's what. All right. Are there any questions on what I just explained here for doing the labs? And I guess I gave you the wrong name. I would call this one, these are labs, right? Yeah. So I would call this one CH2 lab 4. I would call this one CH2 lab 5. And I would call this one CH2 lab 6. You don't have to put your name in the heading or anything like that. I just want the chapter that it's from and the number on there that you're doing. Does anyone have any questions on that? Anything? All right, then I have to do another screen share, and just give me a second here. Let's see. We'll be done by around 11:30 today. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, exercises. The other folder that's in there, one of your folders on the work you're going to have to do is called homework. We just looked at that one. All right. One is called homework, and the other one that you'll have to worry about is called labs. We just looked at labs, so let's open the homework one. And inside it says exercises. And inside of there is a PDF and a Word. It's the same document, but one is in Word format, one is in PDF format. So let me open up the PDF, and guess what? You can't see that until I do another screen share. So let me stop sharing and start sharing again and bring up that PDF. You'll notice there is one problem for you to do for chapter 2 and one problem for you to do for chapter 3. So let's take a quick look at them. Chapter 2. Looks kind of familiar. All right. So I want you to go back and do that. You don't have to use their names unless you want to. I don't care. Don't call this calculated letter grade. Call this homework or HW. No, in fact, call this one like CH2 HW1 for homework 1, something like that. So CH2 for chapter 2, HW for homework 1. So you'll do that one. Code and test the letter grade form. Well, guess what? Where do you think I got that code from? But I want you to follow all the steps that are in here. You don't have to name your things what they name them. You can, but you don't have to. All right. And follow the steps that are in here as well. Now, they tell you to close the form with this dot close. We're doing it a much better way. All right. So really, there's not much homework you have to do other than redoing the stuff we've already looked at. Does everything I just said to you make sense to everybody? All right. So I think what I will do tomorrow, we've got tomorrow and Friday. Friday will be lab for the entire period. All right, let me do one last screen share, maybe one of two last screen shares. The other thing that's in here is there's a folder in here called written tests. So I'm going to open up the first written test. And again, for you to see it, I have to go and yet do another screen share. All right. So this is the first written test that you have to do. Let me just view it in one page. All right. You have to do for chapters 1, 2, and 3, you have to do the written tests. And you have to do them by by Sunday, the 4th, I believe it's the 4th of September. Now, what I did last year was this, and it didn't work well. So I'm going to tell you what I plan on doing this year, and I want your feedback. What I did last year was we did the first test as a class. In fact, we may do the first 3 tests as a class. All right. And we'll do that tomorrow. Let's just plan on doing that. But I'd like you to try to answer the questions. All right. Because if I just sit there and say number 1 is B, I don't know if it is or not, but if I just say it is, number 1 is B, that's not a lot of interaction, and we need interaction for this to work. So I'd like you to look through the 3 sets. Now, what I did in the past, once we got to chapter 4, is students just turned this in. And they were worth 10 points each. I've been told that's not enough points. I should make them worth 20 points each. There will be approximately 15 or 16 of these, I think, that you'll have to do. And at 20 points each, let's say there's 15 of them. That's 300 points. That's the equivalent of 3 tests. Well, a lot of people ended up getting dinged last year because some of the questions that are in here are hard. All right. So what I would like to do is when these are due, the Friday that's before that, the Friday before they're due, I would like us to go through them as a class. I'm not going to answer one question, but I'm going to say, number 1, a desktop application runs, and I'd like one of you to answer. And as long as there's, 2 or more of you in here, that'll work. Now, you might say, well, that isn't fair. What about the people who aren't here to take? I get that. But they may or may not agree with the answers that you guys give. And I'm not going to tell you whether it's right or not. But at least we will collaboratively, somewhat, be doing this as a class. And I think the grades are going to go up if we do that. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there anybody who does not understand what I just said? All right. So tomorrow, what I'd like you to do is take a look at these written tests for chapter 1, for chapter 2, and for chapter 3. All right. And we will go over those first thing tomorrow. Okay. All right. And then after that, you're going to probably end up having a lot of lab time tomorrow. Okay. And I mean, I could go give the test tomorrow, but like I said, at least 1 or 2 people have gotten back to me and said, I'm really kind of confused. So I wanted to give you a day tomorrow to kind of get your bearings. You can do the homework in the labs. If nothing else, it might be a lot of copying from what I've done. I wouldn't just highlight what I've done and copy it over. There is something to be said for keying it in yourselves. There really and truly is. All right. And so tomorrow will be lab for most of the period after we go over the tests, and Friday will be lab for the entire period. So if you say to me, wait a minute, I got everything done. What am I supposed to do during this time? Then go ahead. Read chapter 4, read chapter 5, because starting next Tuesday, we're going to go over chapter 4, and next Wednesday, we're going to go over chapter 5. All right, then probably Thursday, if it works like this, I hope it does, Thursday we'll have a pretest. Friday will be a lab day. The following Monday, there are no classes because that is Labor Day. So your next test would be the day after Labor Day, that Tuesday. All right. And again, if I said anything that didn't make sense to you, you can speak now, or as they say, forever hold your peace. But I will go over this again with you tomorrow. The last thing I will say to you is, again, one of the students sent me an email this morning, and it sounds like possibly the audio cut out for some goofy reason after part of the lecture that was yesterday. He was watching it. I've got my audio set, and it's always set on a certain number. It's around 70 because that tends to be the best, and there's not a lot of fuzz in it, and people can hear it. So I'm going to check that. I hope that's not a problem. If it is, I may have to re-record something. Now, tomorrow, after we go through these tests, I'm going to say, are there any questions? And if there are not any questions, all right, then I'm probably going to stop the meeting. I will be online with you until 11:55, but if you want to get a hold of me, you can either just yell out on Teams, or better yet, email me, and we can have a Teams meeting, or we can have an email conversation as necessary. All right. So you pretty much, other than these first 3 written tests, which again, we will do tomorrow, all right, you pretty much have the homework done for the first set of homeworks. That's not due until Sunday, September 4th. If you get everything done by this Sunday, then just send it to me. You're going to make those changes. All those documents are going to be changed in your GitHub, basically, repository. You're going to change them in the folders. Then you're going to go and do a git add dot. Then you're going to do a git commit, and you'll put a nice message in there like homework number 1, lab number 1, and written tests 1 to 3. All right. And that'll be your message. Then you'll upload that, and I can take a look at it and grade it. All right. That's basically all I have today. Again, unless there's any questions, that's what I had for today. I will see you tomorrow at 8:05. Have a good rest of the day.